A world of untamed jungles and beast riders, of ancient Sith tombs and fierce independence. Onderon, a planet where the wild and the civilized have clashed for millennia, where dark side cults once held sway, and where the echoes of the beast wars still resonate through the canopy. From the fortress city of Iziz to the demon moon of Dxun overhead, this is a world that has shaped galactic history, time and again. A crucible where Jedi have fallen, empires have risen, and freedom fighters have made their stand against tyranny.
You are listening to the Star Lords Podcast.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Are you stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder?
But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
I got a bad feeling about this.
A world apart.
Onderon was a temperate world located in the Japrael system of the Inner Rim, positioned along the lesser-known Shalton Tunnel's hyperspace route. Unlike the gleaming ecumenopolises or barren wastelands that characterize so many worlds touched by galactic civilization, Onderon remained largely pristine, a planet of dense jungles, soaring mountains, and vast savannas where nature reigned supreme. The world's gravity was slightly lighter than standard, allowing both its native fauna and flora to grow to impressive sizes, creating a landscape that seemed pulled from primordial nightmares. The planet possessed 4 moons, but it was Dxun, the largest and closest, that defined Onderon's character. Known as the Demon Moon, Dxun orbited so near to its parent world that their atmospheres actually touched during certain times of the year, creating a bridge of air through which the vicious creatures of Dxun could migrate to Onderon. This celestial dance between world and moon had shaped not only the planet's ecosystem, but its entire history and culture. Onderon's native wildlife was nothing short of terrifying. The jungles teemed with creatures that seemed designed by nature to be perfect killing machines. Drexels, great flying reptiles with razor-sharp talons and powerful wings, ruled the skies. Bomas, massive predators with crushing jaws and armored hides, stalked through the underbrush. The Canox, pack hunters with venomous bites, could bring down prey many times their size through coordinated attacks. Even more fearsome were the Kigs, blind behemoths that hunted through echolocation and could level entire sections of forest in their rampages. It was perhaps inevitable that a world so hostile would produce a people equally fierce. The humans who had colonized Onderon in approximately 5,200 BBY aboard the colony ships quickly learned that survival meant adaptation. It was said that Onderon was relatively peaceful until the first atmospheric contact with Dxun had unleashed a torrent of savage beasts on the world. Those who could not master the beasts or find shelter behind strong walls simply did not survive. This harsh crucible forged the Onderonians into a proud, independent people who valued strength, cunning, and above all, the ability to dominate the wild forces that surrounded them.
The rise of the Beast Lords. The early colonists of Onderon faced a choice that would define their world for millennia: submit to the jungle or master it. A majority of the population huddled within the growing walls of what would become the fortress city of Iziz. Within the walls of Iziz, civilization flourished under a monarchy that traced its legitimacy back to the original colonial charter. The city dwellers developed technology, art, and culture, creating a beacon of order amidst the chaos. This division might have remained merely cultural, but the arrival of Dark Jedi Freedon Nad in 4400 BBY transformed it into something far more sinister. Nad, a fallen Jedi who had murdered his master and sought the secrets of the Sith, came to Onderon after training under the spirit of Nagasadao on Yavin 4. He used his dark side powers to easily conquer the planet, establishing himself as king and ruling for over a century through fear and sorcery, and establishing Sith cults known as Nadists. Under Nad's influence, Onderon became a center of dark side learning. He took a wife, sired children, and established a dynasty that would rule for generations. More importantly, he corrupted the very culture of the planet, intertwining Sith teachings with Onderonian tradition. The practice of exile, casting out criminals and dissidents to face the jungle's wrath, became a tool of political control. They became the first Beast Riders, and in time, the Beast Lords. The society that emerged was dualistic in nature, of those that dwelled in the city and beyond the walls. The Beast Lords created their own society, one that prized the bond between rider and mount, where status was determined by the ferocity of one's beast companion and skill in aerial combat. Those exiles who survived became the Beast Riders, creating a growing population of outcasts who harbored resentment against the dark side monarchy. The architecture of survival.
The city of Iziz itself became a marvel of defensive architecture, shaped by centuries of siege warfare against both beast and man. The city's massive walls, originally built from native stone quarried from the nearby mountains, were continuously reinforced and heightened as the Beast Riders developed new tactics and tamed ever larger flying mounts. By the time of the Beast Wars, the walls stood over 40 meters high, topped with anti-aircraft emplacements and beast-repelling sonic generators. Within these walls, Iziz developed a unique architectural style that blended practical defensibility with surprising elegance. The royal palace, built atop the highest hill in the city, featured multiple levels of fortification, each designed to fall back to if the outer defenses were breached. Secret passages honeycombed throughout the structure, many leading to the underground catacombs where Freedon Nad would eventually be entombed. The palace's distinctive sky bridges, connecting various towers and wings, served as both practical and symbolic purposes, allowing quick movement of defenders while demonstrating the ruler's dominion over the skies that the Beast Riders claimed. The common districts of Iziz told their own story of adaptation. Buildings were constructed with reinforced roofs capable of withstanding aerial attacks, while public spaces featured numerous covered areas and underground shelters. The famous merchant quarter, developed around a series of interconnected underground bazaars, originally bomb shelters that evolved into thriving commercial centers. Even in peacetime, Onderonians never forgot that war could come from above at any moment.
The Beast Wars. The tensions between the city dwellers of Iziz and the Beast Riders finally erupted into open conflict in 4000 BBY, beginning what history would remember as the Beast Wars. By this time, Freedon Nad was long dead, but his descendants, Queen Amanoa, and later her husband King Amen, continue his dark legacy. The Beast Riders, led by Lord Amodon Kira, had grown powerful enough to challenge the monarchy's rule, seeking to overthrow the Sith-influenced government and establish their own dominion. The conflict was unlike any war the galaxy had seen. Beast Riders on Drexels engaged in aerial combat with Iziz defense forces. Boma cavalry charged against the city walls while defending turrets, unleashed barrages of blaster fire. The jungle itself became a battlefield, with both sides employing the native fauna as weapons of war. It was brutal, primal, and seemingly endless, until the Jedi intervened. Master Arca Jeth, one of the most respected Jedi of his era, arrived on Onderon with his apprentices, including Ulic Queldroma and his brother Kay, as well as the Twi'lek taught Donita. Their mission was to bring peace to the war-torn world, but they quickly discovered the dark side's deep roots in Onderonian society. Queen Aminoa, driven by the spirit of Freedom Nand, commanded terrible powers that initially drove the Jedi back. The tide turned when Ulic Queldroma made a fateful decision. He reached out to the Beast Riders, recognizing that they were not the aggressors, but freedom fighters seeking to liberate their world from Sith influence. This alliance between Jedi and Beast Riders proved decisive. Together, they stormed the palace of Iziz, confronting Queen Aminoa in the depths of Freedom Nad's tomb. The battle that followed was as much spiritual as it was physical. Master Arca called upon the light side of the Force, creating a wall of light that severed Aminoa's connection to Nad's spirit. Without the dark side to sustain her, the Queen perished, and it seemed the Beast Wars had finally ended. But the dark side is never so easily vanquished. Shadow and Sorcery.
Peace on Onderon proved fleeting. King Omin, Aminoa's husband, had hidden his own connection to the dark side for decades, studying Sith sorcery in secret while maintaining the facade of a weak, scholarly ruler. When the Jedi attempted to remove Freedom Nad's sarcophagus from Onderon, Omin struck, allied with the spirit of Nad and supported by the Krath, a Sith cult from the Empress Teta system. He launched a devastating counterattack. The second phase of the Beast Wars saw Darkside adepts riding war beasts enhanced by Sith alchemy clash with Jedi and Beast Rider forces. Omin himself, despite his withered body being supported by a mechanical exoskeleton, proved a formidable opponent, wielding Sith magic that could kill with a gesture. The conflict escalated when the Krath launched a full military invasion, seeking to claim Nad's Sith artifacts for themselves. This period saw one of the most significant events in galactic history, the beginning of Ulic Queldroma's fall to the dark side. During the fighting, he was captured by the Krath and subjected to Sith torture and alchemical poisoning. Though he initially resisted, the seeds of darkness were planted. Meanwhile, another future Sith Lord, Exar Kun, arrived on Onderon, seeking Nad's tomb, adding another layer of complexity to an already chaotic situation. The resolution came through a massive Republic military intervention, supported by Jedi reinforcements led by Master Arca himself. In the final battle, both Omin and the Spirit of Freedom Nad were destroyed, though not before Nad chose a new apprentice in Exar Kun and eventually Ulic Queldroma. The Beast Wars ended with the establishment of a new government that united both city dwellers and beast riders under Queen Gallia, Aminoa's daughter, who had secretly married the Beast Lord Oren Kira.
The Nadist cults. Beyond the political ramifications of Sith rule, Freedon Nad's influence created a unique religious movement that persisted long after his death. The Nadist cult, as it came to be known, blended traditional Onderonian ancestor worship with Sith mysticism, creating a belief system that venerated strength, passion, and the domination of the weak by the strong. This dark side religion became so entrenched in Onderonian culture that even after the Beast Wars, elements of it persisted in secret societies and mystery cults. The Nadists developed elaborate rituals centered around beast mastery, believing that the ability to dominate the fierce creatures of Onderon and Dxun was a sign of force sensitivity and divine favor. They practiced blood sacrifices, often using captured enemies or failed initiates as offerings to Nad's spirit. Their priests, known as Dark Speakers, claimed to channel the dead Sith Lord's wisdom, offering prophecies and guidance to those willing to pay the price, usually in pain and suffering. These practices created a theological challenge for the new unified government after the Beast Wars. Queen Galia and Oren Kira attempted to suppress the Nadist cult, but its roots ran too deep. Instead, they were forced to co-opt some of its less offensive practices, transforming blood rituals into symbolic ceremonies and redirecting ancestor worship toward heroes of the revolution rather than Sith Lords. This religious syncretism would characterize Onderonian spirituality for generations, creating a unique blend of light and dark side traditions that made the planet a fascinating study for Jedi anthropologists. The Mandalorian Crucible.
Onderon's strategic location and fierce warrior culture made it a natural target during the Mandalorian Wars of 3976 BBY. The Mandalorian Crusaders, seeking worthy opponents and valuable conquests, invaded the planet in force. What they found was a population that, shaped by centuries of conflict with both beast and dark side cults, was more than prepared for war. The Mandalorians' initial advantages in technology and training were offset by the Onderonians' mastery of their native terrain and fauna. Beast riders on Drexels proved surprisingly effective against Mandalorian basilisk war droids in aerial combat. The dense jungles that had challenged colonists for millennia now became death traps for Mandalorian ground forces, who found themselves hunted by both native predators and guerrilla fighters who knew every tree and ravine. The occupation of Onderon became a grinding campaign that drained Mandalorian resources and morale. Unlike many worlds that fell quickly to the Crusaders' assault, Onderon resisted with a tenacity born from its harsh history. The Beast Riders in particular proved impossible to fully subjugate, conducting hit-and-run raids from hidden bases deep in the jungle and atop the demon moon, Dxun. It was during this occupation that Onderon gained a reputation that would follow it through galactic history, as a world that could not be truly conquered, only temporarily subdued. The Mandalorians eventually established a stronghold on Dxun, using the moon as a staging area, but they never achieved complete control over Onderon itself. This partial victory would prove prophetic, as centuries later, the Mandalorian presence on Dxun would play a crucial role in the Jedi Civil War and beyond.
The economics of war. Onderon's perpetual state of conflict created a unique war-based economy that both sustained and trapped the planet. The Beast Riders developed a complex system of beast husbandry, breeding Drexels and Bomas, not just for war but for export to other worlds seeking exotic creatures for gladiatorial games or private menageries. The city of Iziz, meanwhile, became renowned for its weapons manufacturing, producing specialized anti-beast armaments that found markets throughout the galaxy. This militarized economy had profound social effects. A warrior class emerged in both city and wilderness, professional soldiers who passed their skills through family lines. The famous Kira dynasty of beast lords maintained breeding programs for war Drexels that produced mounts of unmatched ferocity and loyalty. In Iziz, the Royal Armory Guild jealously guarded secrets of metallurgy that allowed them to create armor capable of withstanding a Drexel's talons or a Boma's bite. The constant need for military supplies also drove technological innovation. Onderonian engineers developed some of the galaxy's first man-made portable shield generators, originally designed to protect individual soldiers from aerial beast attacks. Their advances in veterinary medicine, necessary to keep their war beasts healthy, led to breakthroughs that would later benefit agricultural worlds throughout the Republic. Even their cuisine adapted the military needs, with traditional Onderonian field rations becoming sought-after delicacies among military forces who valued their nutritional density and long shelf life. The Demon Moon's Secrets.
While Onderon commanded most attention, its moon Dxun held secrets equally significant to galactic history. The Demon Moon was more than just a source of dangerous beasts. It was a nexus of force energy, nearly as powerful as Onderon itself. The ancient Sith lords who followed Frida Nad established hidden temples and meditation chambers throughout Dxun's jungle-covered surface, sites where the barrier between life and death grew thin. The Mandalorians, during their occupation, discovered some of these sites and attempted to harness their power. Canderous Ordo would later tell tales of Mandalorian warriors driven mad by visions in certain valleys of Dxun, of ancient Sith spirits that whispered promises of power to those foolish enough to listen. The Mandalorians, pragmatic as always, eventually marked these areas as off-limits, posting guards, not to keep enemies out, but to keep their own people from venturing in. During the full atmospheric convergence between Onderon and Dxun, strange phenomena occurred. Force sensitives reported shared dreams, prophetic visions that seemed to blend past and future. The beast migrations that gave Dxun its fearsome reputation were only the most visible effect of these convergences. Some scholars theorized that the atmospheric bridge actually created a temporary merger in the Force, allowing the dark side energies accumulated on both worlds to flow and mix in unpredictable ways.
Echoes through time. The legacy of Onderon's turbulent past continued to shape galactic events long after the Beast Wars and Mandalorian occupation. During the Jedi Civil War, the planet served as a crucial location where the Jedi exile, Mitra Surik, gathered allies and resources for the fight against the Sith Triumvirate. The Mandalorian camp on Dxun, now led by Canderous Ordo, who had taken the title Mandalore the Preserver, became an unlikely source of support for the Republic's cause. The planet's tombs and ruins, saturated with dark side energy from centuries of Sith rule, attracted Force users of all stripes. Jedi came seeking to understand and cleanse these sites, while Darksiders often sought the power and knowledge hidden within. The tomb of Frida Nad, despite multiple attempts to seal or destroy it, remained a particularly potent nexus of dark side energy that would trouble the Jedi Order for generations. During the Clone Wars, Onderon once again found itself fighting for freedom, this time against the Separatist Alliance. The planet's resistance movement, led by siblings Saw and Stila Guerrera, exemplified the independent spirit that had characterized Onderonians throughout their history. With support from Jedi, including Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Ahsoka Tano, the Resistance successfully overthrew the Separatist-backed king and restored legitimate government. Saw Gerrera's experience on Onderon would shape him into one of the most effective and extreme rebel leaders during the age of the Empire. His tactics, considered too violent even by the Rebel Alliance, drew directly from the traditions of the Beast Riders. Strike from the wilderness, use every advantage the terrain provides, and show no mercy to oppressors. In many ways, Saw embodied the fierce independence that had allowed Onderon to survive and thrive despite centuries of conflict. During the Galactic Civil War, Onderon housed a key Imperial Ordnance Center near Iziz, critical for supplying forces in the region. In 2 ABY, the Rebel Alliance launched one of its first major offensives and destroyed the facility, significantly weakening Imperial logistics in the sector. Years later, during the Emperor Palpatine's final resurgence, Han and Leia Solo hid their children on Onderon. The Emperor, in disguise, pursued them to Kira Fortress. In the ensuing confrontation, Palpatine was slain by Han Solo, and his attempt to possess young Anakin Solo was thwarted when the dying Jedi Empatayahos, Brand, intercepted the Emperor's spirit, dragging it into the netherworld of the Force, ending Palpatine's threat for good. The eternal struggle.
Onderon stands as an example of the power of adaptation and resistance. From its earliest days, when colonists first faced the choice between cowering behind walls or mastering the beasts that terrorized them, to its role in galactic conflicts spanning millennia, the planet has consistently produced people who refuse to submit to outside control. The duality that defined Onderon, civilization versus wilderness, order versus freedom, light versus dark, was never truly resolved. Instead, it became the planet's greatest strength. The synthesis achieved after the Beast Wars, uniting the technologically advanced of Iziz with the primal power of the Beast Riders, created a society uniquely equipped to face whatever challenges the galaxy might throw at it. Even the dark side's deep roots in Onderonian soil served as a purpose, acting as a constant reminder of the price of power without wisdom. The tombs of Sith Lords, rather than being sources of continuing corruption, became monuments to the folly of those who sought to dominate through fear and sorcery. Each generation of Onderonians learned anew the true strength came not from dark side magic or advanced technology alone, but from understanding the harmony with the Force, both natural and supernatural, that shaped their world. In the end, Onderon remained unconquered and unconquerable, a wild world where the roar of Drexel still echoed through mountain valleys, where beast riders still soared through the skies, and where the people stood ready to fight for their freedom against any who would dare try to chain them. It was a planet that had looked into the darkness, survived the storm, and emerged stronger, a beacon of defiance in a galaxy too often dominated by empires and would-be conquerors.
In an age when nature and magic rule the world, there is an extraordinary legend. The story of a warrior who communicates with animals, who fights sorcery and the unnatural. His name is Dar, last of his tribe. He is also called Beastmaster.
Welcome, Woodman Falcon. This is Christian.
And this is Jordan.
We're currently in the beautiful world of Yetrakistan. Just kidding. On the graveyard of empire, the other graveyard of empires, Dxun, known for its monstrous pterodactyl-like creatures.
Yeah, just enjoying a blue margarita and watching the horizon of Onderon going down. Very beautiful.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, we got to do a little bit of housekeeping here. So we just, first of all, want to thank all of our supporting listeners, all our Patreon supporters. We got a new one, Carrie. Thank you so much for jumping on and supporting the show. If you want to become a member, a supporting member, it's just $3 a month. And with that, you get access to all the bonus episodes. And you can also do single episode buys on Patreon as well. We also accept Bitcoin, single donations on PayPal at starlordspodcast@gmail.com. And you can get merch on Redbubble. Links are all in the description of this show. If you can't support monetarily, absolutely not a problem. But one way you could totally help us out is if you rate and review the show. That definitely helps us. That's almost as good as giving us money. We really appreciate it when you guys rate and review the show, and those ratings and reviews keep coming in, so much appreciated. Also, make sure to follow us on social media. We are on Discord, Instagram, X, and Facebook. So make sure to follow us there, and you can direct message us on there too if you want to get a hold of us. And for any other business inquiries, because we do get those from time to time, make sure to direct those to our email, starlordspodcast@gmail.com. And in DMs or email, send us your Star Wars collections, fan fiction, headcanon, in-universe ads, that kind of stuff. I'm trying to work on some fan fiction right now. I've got a backlog of them, but I want to do a little bit more. Might be using. I want to use some. I did do an audio drama with our last fan fiction, but I might do some. Maybe play around with AI, get some famous voice actors, AI talking. That might be kind of fun. Maybe get Harrison Ford or someone to.
We will personally call up Harrison Ford and offer him $1 million to voice a fan fiction.
Yeah.
Is what Jordan meant to say.
Yeah. Anyways, it might be just fun to play around with that to experience some of the fan fiction we've got. Anyways, if you have any other corrections or comments, anything else you want to say about the show, feel free to contact us through any of those methods. Again, all the stuff will be in our link website. It has in the description of the show, and it'll have all the links that you need to get to all that stuff. So yeah, anyway, Christian, here we are talking about Onderon,
admiring the beautiful wildlife, the Drexels as they shriek across the skies. A little bit to say about this world. First and foremost, it is one of those worlds that does appear quite a bit throughout the Star Wars continuity. You will see it flare up in everything as the Old Republic, Tales of the Jedi era, and the newer Old Republic era, all the way up until the Clone Wars, and even all the way into the post Return of the Jedi era. So it's one of those names that just keeps coming up, has a lot of history, a lot of depth of lore in all the stories that take place.
That's what I really like about this planet too, is they've really just taken their time to write the history of it, and I think it really works too. It actually has its very own, very good character and sort of just unique history and culture to it that just over years and decades of writing about the planet and kind of keep coming back to it. They've been able to. It's just kind of cool to see how it evolves into this fully fleshed out little
place,
little corner of the universe, which is really sweet.
And it's super unique. The idea of a planet getting so close to its moon that their atmospheres touch, and it actually can create a bridge.
Yeah.
I don't think that this is the first time that's come up in science fiction, but it's very cool to see it implemented and play such like a pivotal role in the world, where like these beasts can then go from the moon, right? Like it's a cool way to bridge the gap of space travel without having to deal with spacecraft, right? So it's really cool. Some of the themes obviously are really cool. It's constant state of conflict. We have never seen that in the real world ever. But yeah, it's always like a planet in tension, right? Tension of like civilization versus the wild is obviously a big theme in it. I always appreciate that. That's a very strong Conan the Barbarian type theme, especially when you include elements like the Beast Riders and stuff, right? Like you could get very archaic with it, almost fantastical. But then you also have the sci-fi, of course, of Star Wars. So you get best of both worlds. You could definitely see like a fantasy epic playing out on Onderon as well, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the architecture too, just to stay on that point. It's a lot of stonework, which is cool too.
Yeah.
That also brings in kind of that fantasy element as well. And then, like I said, that Conan theme, I've always appreciated that, like nature versus nurture argument, or like the wild versus civilization, and like what really makes civilization civilized and the wild, and the interplay between the two. There's a lot of like philosophical history there too. You have, you have like a Thoreauian, like walled in nature versus like a Hobbesian, like a societal conflict, right, between nature and civilization, which I always appreciate a good story around that.
Yeah.
So.
Is Hobbes's idea of like Leviathan, is that like nature that you're trying to conquer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And dominate. Right?
Yeah.
Like you have the tension of dominating nature. You have the idea of like beast riders who are mastering these creatures.
Yeah.
Or you have like the civilization, like Iziz, that's being built, or Iziz, however you want to pronounce it.
Yeah.
And their mastery of nature, or fear of nature too. They pretty much wall themselves off from this chaotic, wild forces of the other side of humanity, right? So there's a lot you could read into with the Onderon people alone before you layer on elements of the Sith influence and Mandalorian invasions.
Yeah. It is kind of cool that they you see this contrast not just with the landscape and the geography itself, where you have like the city that is obviously very like civilized, and then you have the jungle, which is uncivilized and untamed. But even it goes to like the people and the culture. The ones that live in the jungle are, beast riders and like primal, and then the ones that live in the city are very civilized and orderly. And so it's kind of cool how like the geography sort of shapes the culture a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then you have those elements to kind of merge and just create like a generally a hostile environment to outsiders as well. Again, with that whole idea of foreign invaders. And then how that breeds like this they are also a warlike people, kind of like the Mandalorians. It kind of reminds me a lot of the Fremen in Dune. Same idea, right?
Yeah.
Raised by a hostile environment, creates kind of like a warrior society, and then they repel outsiders. That really comes to the fore when you get to the era of the Clone Wars, right? You have this whole history of these kind of a tale of two cities, as it were, two civilizations, and then they kind of come together to be the Onderon people broadly. When and they even signify that through marriage, which is often a way that powerful societies merge, is marrying like dynasties together. Which you see here, and then thousands of years later, you get to the Clone Wars era, and again, you have a foreign invasion in the form of the Confederacy, which is interesting in that the obvious real-world parallels that we kind of made a joke about, the similarities, I guess, to other efforts of fighting insurgent guerrillas, both in the desert or the jungle. But they actually lifted some of this from real history. So when we're first introduced to the character of Saw Gerrera, which we'll get back to in a second, it's in a Clone Wars episode where the Republic is supporting a Onderonian guerrilla group against the Separatist forces.
Yeah.
And the key linchpin of that mission is to deliver anti-air missiles to knock down Confederate air superiority, which they have over these guerrilla forces. So you have this technologically advanced invader, the CIS, obviously using droids and aircraft against this like motley crew.
Yeah.
That was lifted from the Americans delivering Stinger missiles to the Mujahideen and to knock down Soviet attack helicopters, which were kind of dominating the battlefield of the time as well. And they literally took that storyline and they like Star Warsified it. But you can obviously see what Onderon is supposed to reflect in a lot of this.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying there. My initial thought was more Vietnam, just because of the jungle,
the aesthetic,
and the aesthetic, and also, you know, like Vietnam was like a French colony, and if you go to Vietnam, there's actually like a lot of French architecture and stuff like that, and French design of the cities.
Yeah.
So you see that French influence, but. So I kind of think Onderon in that way.
I mean, there's plenty of parallels between Iraq and Vietnam, just between the two of them.
That's true.
So I'm sure they just kind of mashed together this general vague idea of what that looks like.
Sure.
But yeah, certainly it's kind of funny, and it's not like Saw Gerrera would ever become another insurgent force and attack Coruscant with some flyers or something.
Yeah.
Under a different name, but
the other interesting thing is Friedan Nad's century-long rule through dark side powers. It raises questions about the relationship between the Force and political legitimacy, and basically, his like descendants are the ruling class in the sort of Onderonian civil society, I guess. And there's all the way up to. Is it the time of Meecher Stewart when
the Civil War happens?
Yeah, the Civil War. Yeah,
and you can choose in the game what side to go with. Yeah.
But you have literally like an entire society that, though they're not really explicitly like a Sith society, they're like influenced by the dark side. And it's institutionalized in their power structure. Which is quite interesting to me.
It's similar to like what you were saying about Vietnam, where you see those French influences still lingering even after so long and so much conflict, right? There's still little things that remain embedded in the culture.
And it is cool to see, like, again, fleshing out this whole history of this one Sith Lord who like influence like thousands of years of history of a planet, and all their institutions and stuff are like all affected by that and influenced by that history, which is, I think, is just like cool. But it also brings up like other questions. Should Force users be allowed to rule simply because they have power?
Yes, Jordan, of course. Yes, the answer is yes.
I mean, if you ascribe to Sith philosophy,
then yes,
then obviously, like the most powerful have the right to rule, right? And I mean, excuse the pun, but like Law of the Jungle is
the Law of Dxun.
Yeah, the Law of Dxun is the strong survive, right? And like that you gain legitimacy through strength, and that's kind of just the way of nature, you know.
Kind of rolling back to Saw Gerrera there, or I guess jumping forward in time again. We should note real quickly that he is a character that exists both. He's one of those characters, again, that kind of lingers in that conflict zone of canon versus legends. He was first introduced in the Clone Wars television show in 2012, which was the year that Disney ended up buying the Star Wars IP. So he exists in legends, and then he's also fairly prominent in canon, which we can discuss here, in that Saw Gerrera eventually goes on to become like a very extreme cell within the rebellion, to the point that like the rebellion disassociates with him. And again, that parallel between the Mujahideen and what they will eventually become as an extremist cell, that parallel, I think, was again very intentional. But I do like when the rebels aren't, you know, purely do-gooders and stuff, and we murky the waters a little bit. With some extremism.
Absolutely. And he's played by the great Forrest Whitaker in
in
Rogue One.
Yeah. And he appears in the Fallen Order games as well. So
Yeah.
like he does appear quite a few times. Yeah.
I did want to mention one thing too, just an interesting, maybe a little rabbit trail. So like when the sort of Nadist cult rises up, and I can't remember the name of the queen there, Galia or something.
Yeah. It's off the top of my head too.
Yeah, where they have to like put down this revolt, but that culture of Frida Nad, as I was like mentioning before, is so ingrained that like they don't want to give up. That's like their traditions and their culture and part of who they are. So she has to integrate it and even use some of their rituals and ceremonies and stuff and incorporate it in order to like get everyone to sort of compromise and agree so that they can have like a society
that functions.
Yeah. But it is interesting there, even in our world, there's this process that a lot of psychologists and like anthropologists have observed, and they call it sublimation. Now the word sublimation it's actually like a chemistry term when like a liquid turns into a gas, but cultural sublimation is sort of when a really like hardcore practice in a culture sort of I don't know what the word they use, but it ascends, if you will, and becomes like more symbolic.
Or softens.
Yeah, or softens.
Yeah.
So like the most striking example of this would be like cannibalism.
Yeah.
So they've observed sublimation happening with like cannibalistic cultures where they no longer practice cannibalism, but they have some sort of ritual where they reenact the cannibalism.
Yeah.
But it becomes like a whole ceremony and stuff, and everyone like sort of gather like it's like a cultural glue. So I just think that's really, really interesting. And even in this, there's almost like this cultural sublimation that's going on.
Yeah.
Where
they soften the practices. It becomes more ceremonial.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so just an interesting note to I thought it was kind of smart how they wrote that sort of aspect in.
Kind of to leapfrog off of that too, there's also not quite in the same vein, but oftentimes there are cultural practices that rulers will adopt to legitimize their power, to be seen as like a legitimate force, especially when you're dealing with like a conquest situation. So for example, the conquest of the UK, when the northern invaders are attacking the Saxons and stuff, they'll integrate some of their practices so that they will be seen as a legitimate ruler, even though they are like a foreign invading force, like the Normans. They'll exchange language, or they'll exchange certain practices that will make them more digestible to the population that's being ruled over as well. So
yeah,
it's
totally
also interesting.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, and even like one more note on, so like we see it happening a lot. I would say even like our, when we most Western countries have like a Memorial Day, like a day where they remember people who fought in the First or Second World Wars, and even that could be seen as a sort of form of sublimation, where you get people, often there'll be like maybe a ceremony where they shoot guns into the air, as sort of like almost a reenactment of the thing that happened. But you even said, okay, if you're familiar with the biblical story of Abraham and Isaac, where God asked him to sacrifice Isaac, and then instead of sacrificing him, God provides a goat to sacrifice instead. And this is actually like a process of sublimation. This is clearly what's happening is sublimation. So like this book would have been written in like a Sumerian context where human sacrifice was like regularly practiced, and to like sacrifice your firstborn child to the gods would have been like a very important thing that a lot of people would have practiced. Not everyone, but it would have been a fairly common practice. And this was like almost sort of sublimation, going from human sacrifice to animal sacrifice, right? And so you just like you see this happening a lot, and then you'll see like other like you were saying, you'll see other cultures or conquering cultures will even incorporate those practices into their own even into the society they just conquered. They'll adopt some of their practices to gain legitimacy with those
the people. Just makes it easier to to lord over them.
Exactly. But anyways, that's about all we had. Do we have anything else you wanted to mention, Christian?
Just a really quick roadmap, I guess. I kind of like to do these in some of our episodes to give people a little touchstone as to where we're going. So we did drop a bunch of new names and some old names. So in the near future, we will be touching on some of those names for future episodes. So just keep your ear out for that. You'll hear some repetition in that. These characters that we just briefly mentioned in this episode are going to come up with their own episodes as well. So we're moving into an era. We were kind of in the KOTOR era for a little while, and we're kind of moving backwards again a little bit. Just for me personally, like, it's always confused me. You get the whole stream of Sith names through history, and it always kind of confused me. It's like, well, when is this taking place compared to this thing? Like, when is KOTOR relative to Tales of the Jedi? That always is something that confused me a lot. So just to give our listeners a little bit of a mental roadmap of where we are on the timeline and where we're going. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. All right. Other than that, I'll address that. We didn't really have much of a mailbag today. I did want to address a controversy, a polarizing event that happened in our episode just before this one, in episode 117, the Scion episode. It's funny, we got a lot of feedback. Some positive, some negative. It was just about 50-50, actually. I got a couple emails, got a couple
hate comments
on Spotify and on YouTube, both disliking and liking, but the controversy was over the choice of music in the episode. I thought it was big enough, maybe I'll actually address it in an episode. So I first want to just like set some context, especially over the last, I would say maybe for sure 20 episodes, but maybe 30 episodes. We like subscribed to a whole like licensing music service. And there's like a huge library of music we can use. And I've been trying to have the music designed to like more fit
with the content of the episode.
Yeah, with the script of the episode a little, to be a little more thematic, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what I've been trying to go for. I'm not saying I'm like perfect in that, like, and if you'll notice in episode 116 with the Nihilist, it was like very horror, like ominous, in the Nihilist episode. Yeah. And then in the Scion episode, I went more for like hard rock metal, because
it's more metal than a zombie.
Yeah. And so that was like my stylistic choice. Yeah. Sorry, some of you didn't like it.
I was in favor of it, Jordan, and I think we should continue down this path.
Yeah, I'm not apologizing for doing it. I'm apologizing that you didn't enjoy it.
I'm sorry you didn't like it.
Yeah. That's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes,
I'm looking forward to the episode where you can incorporate some country music.
Yeah. And some
Star Wars country and hip hop.
Yeah. I don't know where I could fit hip hop in, but I could do, I don't know. I feel like I've done a little bit, but more with like Mandalorians and like bounty hunters kind of thing. But anyways, that is just like a note, even just on my the creative process of like why we make these creative choices.
And we're not sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still gonna keep experimenting, like, some episodes it's just not gonna be your cup of tea. So,
or broaden your musical tastes.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe Jordan's dipping your toes in a little something different.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I know it was a bit of a departure from what it kind of the typical music. It is true, but that's just what we did for this time. So, but yeah, anyways, other than that, I didn't really have anything else. Christian, any other?
Let's get off of this devil moon.
All right.
Or get eaten by a Drexel.
Perfect. See you later.